Hey, Tim Harridge here again. Thanks for coming back. I hope you've enjoyed the first two videos, and I hope it's kind of opening your eyes to the world that is real estate investing. So today, I want to talk to you about property management and project management. And really, I want to talk to you about just some considerations about taking a property both into short-term profit and long-term gains. So let's start off with project management, and then we'll get into property management. All right, so with project management, it's important to know your exit strategy with project management. And you guys, I hope you keep noticing that I keep saying exit strategy, supply and demand, exit strategy, supply and demand. Because what you do with the property needs to be determined on the front end. Don't be one of these investors that get into a deal, get halfway through it, and just figure out they fly by the seat of their pants, because that's how you go over budget and lose money. So, project management. You got to ask yourself what? What is your goal? What are you trying to do here? So let's imagine that, for example, we'll go back to this same house. It's worth $100,000. We're going to make it a rent house for $1,000 a month, and we've got a $15,000 budget. Now, in Texas, a lot of the houses, I would say over the 1,000 houses I've bought, gosh, I would imagine that 90% of them needed foundation work. And the thing is, if you're repairing a foundation, you need to use drilled piers, especially here in Texas where there's expansive soil. And you really need to get a good foundation company no matter where you are in the nation. Even if you're in the Northeast where most of them have basements, you really need to make sure that you're starting with a solid foundation and the structural components are done right. So what are we going to do with this house? It's a real important question, because like me with my rent houses, I'm 34 years old. I started acquiring rentals about 8 years ago. My goal is to begin to sell the houses when I'm about 40. That way I can generate some cash, pay off the ones that aren't paid off yet, and end up with a nice debt-free pool of residential real estate within 30 miles of my home. That works for me. So you got to figure out what you want to do with it. So we're just going to assume that this project is about a 5 to 7 year hold, and then a sale for profit, and then reinvest. So you've got to address the structure, right? Because you don't want to put in cheap materials underneath the house and then have the house settle and adjust and shift on you, and then you're ruining the drywall and the roof that you put on top of the foundation. So you got to start off with securing the structure of the home. And that also includes the roof. Don't I meet a lot of investors. They just put a little patch on the roof, and then what happens is it leaks. And number one, it runs off a tenant, but number two, it can cause a mold issue. It can cause damaged drywall and paint, damaged floors, and it's one of those things that if you address it right, it's structural. If you address it right from the beginning, you're not going to have problems with it on down the road. Then you go into mechanical. And we're going to have a vendor at the October seminar that is really going to help you understand all about the way he looks at these houses. He remodels 200 houses a year. So you're going to have the mechanical aspects of this, and that's going to be your electrical, HVAC, your central heat and air, the plumbing system. If a house has been vacant, a lot of the REO properties have been vacant for several years. They have cast iron pipes. And what happens is a cast iron pipe, as long as it has moisture in it, it doesn't really corrode, it just rusts. But as soon as it dries out, that rust flakes off, and now you could have a potential sewer leak underneath the house. So Blake is going to talk to you all about the electrical and HVAC and plumbing considerations, and really the good mechanical. Because if you've got a structurally sound, mechanically functional house, what's after that is the cosmetics. And the cosmetics is one of those things that really, depending on your exit strategy, if you make it nice and appealing, you're going to get a better tenant and better rent. Or if you're going to sell the house, and we're going to talk all about sales in the next video, if you're going to sell the house, I mean, that cosmetic is really where you make your money. In my opinion, you earn your money making sure all this is right, but you make your money by making it pretty and making people want to come after that house. So on project management, let's talk about budget. So with a budget, on this project management, it's very important to keep a ledger. Just like you're in what is that, 10th grade math of money. You got to keep a ledger. So you start off with $15,000 in this bank account, in this budget, and every check you need to have a budget item, and it needs to be broken up into 3 columns. You've got budgeted, actual, and difference. Because you need to be able to analyze your performance once you're done. So you really want to make sure, if you had $3,000 budgeted for the foundation, you need to go back, and if you spent $3,500 minus $500, you were off $500. And it's really important to go through that entire process all the way through the renovation, so that at the end of the day you can analyze your overall success, and then you can make a mental note of where you went wrong. It's very important. And then timelines. Always, always, always work on timelines and deadlines with contractors, realtors, sales professionals, anyone. You need timelines and budgets, and that is a very big part of project management. So that's really it with project management. I highly recommend you have a general contractor when you're first starting off if you've never actually ran a remodel project. Now let's move on to property management. I really want to talk to you about property management, and there's really nothing for the whiteboard for property management. It's really between me and you. And again, make sure you ask your questions below, because this is the type of conversation that can really go well with questions. Property management is where most people lose money in this business. And if you have a vacant renovation property and you're not there 3 to 4 times a week, you're going to lose money. You're going to have someone take advantage of you inevitably. Maybe not on the first one or the second one or the 20th. So if you're going to run a remodel project, even with the general contractor, you or another representative needs to be there to check on the general contractor once a week at a minimum. If you're not using a general contractor, if you're using subcontractors, you're absolutely going to have to be there 3 to 4 times a week in order to make sure that the project is progressing. Because what will happen is just inevitably people won't show up as early and they won't stay as late. And by the end of the day, your project's going to be a couple weeks behind. And if you're using hard money, for instance, on that example we had where it was a $70,000 loan at 14% interest, you're looking at, with taxes, utilities, interest, insurance, etc., I mean, you're probably spending $70 to $85 a day in per diem. And so it's very important to set deadlines and timelines and to move forward, always forward. You've got to be moving forward. In this business, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And so then it comes down to property management on your rentals. And I run into so many new investors that mismanage their investment. And it's so funny to me, because if you had a stockbroker that was mismanaging your investment, you'd fire him immediately. And so many landlords won't fire themselves, and they need to. It's something that I believe in as far as collecting rent and timely collection of rent, if not charging late fees, and if the late fees aren't paid, evicting. Because what you'll find happens is you will spend hours and hours and months trying to help someone because you're trying to be a good person, and at the end of the process, I can almost guarantee you'll be the one left holding the bag. I'm actually going today at 3 o'clock to pick up keys on a rent house from someone that I tried to help earlier this year, and it came down to payment plans that were broken and ultimately a hot check that I got back last week. So take it from experience. Hire a property manager if you can't do it full time, and if you can't be less emotional and more business-like, because it is a business. It's a business that deals in people's homes. So if you're not going to be very diligent in collecting your money and making sure you collect everything that you're owed and holding people to agreements, you're definitely going to need a property manager, and you'll also need a project manager or a general contractor on your renovations, because about the only person I've ever met that takes more advantage of new investors than a tenant is a contractor. So I hope this video has helped. Just a little bit of it's theory. We can only go so much in 10-15 minutes. So the next video is one of my favorite videos. It's about sales. It's tips and tricks to sell your houses, and ultimately at the end of the day, the investment pays off whenever it sells. And so Next video, we'll talk about cashing out. So I'll send it to you in a couple days. Till then, take care.